Hey guys, this is Balance from WCReplays.com, bringing you my second audio commentary for the site. It's copyrighted, so don't steal it. First thing I want to talk about before we even get started is why I'm covering a Night Elf vs. Orc matchup. This matchup I feel is particularly notorious. A lot of people talk about how it's favored on the Night Elf side, so why even do a commentary, some might say. First of all, I don't entirely believe that that's true. I think a lot of that comes down to a matter of options. If you watch the highest level of Warcraft, you'll see a lot of different strategies being played on the Night Elf side and not nearly so many on the Orc side, and so that makes it look like Night Elf can just win with anything. I feel like Orc does have a lot more options than are currently being played. I'll talk about that more later. So I'm going to be talking about exactly where the Orc weaknesses are in this matchup and what you need to do to secure your victory. Those even top Orc players are very beatable. You just have to know where their weaknesses are, so that's what I'm going to be talking about in this game. So let's go ahead and get it opened up and get it paused at the 15-second mark. Again, this is MYM Moon versus 4K Grubby. This game takes place on Twisted Meadows. So in any case, I hope you're paused at the 15-second mark. We're going to be looking at this at 1x speed from MYM Moon's perspective. Hopefully you're all queued up. I'll also turn the Fog of War on. Go ahead and unpause in 3, 2, 1, go. So we're at 18, 19, 20. This is at 1x speed. So, again, this is from Moon's perspective with the Fog of War on. And we can see starting off with an altar build, which is probably going to mean a Demon Hunter first. There are actually a lot of choices for for first hero in this matchup on the Night Elf side. Sometimes you see Warden first, sometimes you see Keeper first. And then, of course, there are a variety of neutral heroes that people have gone first in this matchup at various points in the history of this matchup. Demon Hunter is still always a good choice in any matchup. That's one thing you should remember, a Night Elf player. Demon Hunter is a strong hero, a big tanking hero that does a lot of damage and neutralizes other heroes is useful at any point. So you can always win with a Demon Hunter. Of course, playing a Demon Hunter is very different from playing other heroes, so you have to know what you're doing if you are going to use it. But it's always a strong hero, and we'll talk about its particular advantages throughout this matchup. So you'll notice that that Moon has started off with this Ancient of War over at his yellow camp. This is something you can do on a number of maps, obviously, this Ancient of War creeping, but Twisted Meadows is interesting because the Ancient of War, if you do this, is very far away from your base, and the creep camp is a little harder than, say, on Echo Isles or Turtle Rock, where you have those easy greens that die very quickly. So it's a little riskier if you're going to do this Ancient of War creeping. However, if you do it effectively, and you can rewatch this replay from Moon's particular build order and how he does this exactly, it still can be done very quickly. You have to kill that Null Overseer first. You have to bring that Wisp out to repair your Ancient of War to make sure that it doesn't get killed if the other player shows up right away. But if you do it right away and don't waste any time, you can get that Null Overseer down, and then even if they run straight to you, you can actually have most of the creep camp killed before they even show up, and you can still be in okay position. This tactic is especially risky against races that can tower rush you, i.e. human, so you have to be careful about that. But it does work against races that probably aren't going to tower rush you. And even you can pull it off against human, but it is risky. But it's just a nice way to give yourself a good solid chunk of experience right at the start. Leveling up a Demon Hunter is a good way to get a big advantage in the game. You know, the Demon Hunter gets very strong as he reaches higher levels, and one of the downsides of the Demon Hunter is that he's very hard to creep with early on because he has to do all the tanking and he takes a lot of damage, and you have to use that precious moon juice to heal him up. So using an Ancient of War to creep complements the Demon Hunter very nicely. So if there's any way you can do it, it's usually a good idea unless you have a pressing reason to be running straight to them with the Demon Hunter. In most cases, it's helpful to use that free tank that the Ancient of War is to level up your Demon Hunter and get some experience without having to sacrifice the moon juice to heal him back up. So that's the benefit of Ancient of War creeping. So you'll notice what Moon does here. As soon as he's done with his creep camp, he runs immediately to where he knows Grubby is creeping. And if you're not sure of where the Orc's creeping, you can use your wisps, your scout wisps, to scout it. Scout wisps are always very important, as I mentioned in my previous commentary. But he runs immediately to where Grubby is creeping, because now that he's established that little experience advantage, he wants to stay on top. If he could have stayed and crept that little green camp right there, but probably by the time he was done creeping that green, Grubby could have gotten all the way to level 2 on his own, and the game would be evened up. By going immediately after Grubby, he can hopefully prevent Grubby from getting level 2 and maintain that experience advantage that he's just established. So that's another way to play the Ancient of War creeping to your advantage, is you creep and then you immediately stay on them to maintain that experience advantage that you've just established. So you'll notice another thing I wanted to talk about here is archers versus huntresses in this particular matchup. They're both very valid choices. One thing I will say about archers is they obviously die very, very quickly to Orc. If you're gonna go archers first, you have to be very confident in your micro against the Orc player, especially against the Far Seer, and especially because that usually means a TC second. You know, they have wolves, chain lightning, shockwave. Your archers are gonna die very quickly. And archers do have a lot of benefits. You know, in a lot of cases they're better for creeping, and they're better for killing burrows. And they allow you to not have to build your hunters all early, saving you some lumber. You know, so they do have a lot of upsides, but you know, if you're not careful with your archers, you can lose them all. Like, lose every single one of your archers to Far Seer or Blade Master. Either way, you know, with dust, to a Far Seer with dust or a Blade Master with boots of speed and dust. You can lose every single one of your archers if you're not careful. So it's really just a matter of preference whether you go huntresses or archers. They both have their upsides, but yeah, the main point here is that if you're gonna go archers, you got to be ready to run them away at the first sign of trouble. Otherwise, they will all die to an Orc player that even knows a little bit about what he's doing. So you'll notice this is one of the points in the matchup that I wanted to address specifically. Moon has just reached tier 2, and if you look at his base, he's just now putting his Ancients of Lore up. This is one place where you as a Night Elf player are very, very vulnerable. You know, if an Orc player is in your base at this point, canceling your tier 2 buildings, regardless of whether you choose to go Lores or Lore and Wind or whatever it is that you're doing, if they're in your base canceling your tier 2 buildings, you're going to be in a heck of a lot of trouble. I'll take a pause from that thought just to address the fact here that Moon is doing exactly what I said. He's just immediately running his archers away. There's really no point in having them die here. He's just going to use his summons and his heroes to try to pressure this Far Seer. He does have boosted speed on his Demon Hunter. You notice he brought his archers back into the fight to try to kill the Far Seer, and now he's immediately going to run him right back out again. That's how you have to use archers if you're going to use them. But he's just staying on this Far Seer. And you'll notice, you know, over the course of this, that Moon doesn't really accomplish a whole lot. Doesn't kill a burrow, doesn't cancel buildings, doesn't kill any peasants. And he's eventually going to not kill this Far Seer, as Grubby's going to be able to utilize his shop and use healing potions to keep the Far Seer alive. So what did he accomplish there? Well, it doesn't look like he accomplished much, but really he did, because of the point that I was making just a minute ago with the lores. Your buildings die very fast to Orc. That's something you have to be aware of as a Night Elf player. Night Elf buildings are very easy to kill. You don't have really hardly any static base defense, and if there's no reason to go Nature's Blessing, you generally don't. And you know, Orc has a lot of movement speed, a lot of easy siege damage, and your buildings are going to die very fast. So right as your tier 2 buildings are going up, you are very vulnerable. So one way or another, you need to make sure those tier 2 buildings go up. If you let them get canceled even once, you're already behind, and they can basically contain you for the rest of the game with raiders, if you don't have your tier 2 units to combat the raiders. If you let your tier 2 buildings get canceled more than once, it's going to be very hard to win the game. So just bear in mind, as a Night Elf player, that you are very vulnerable right at that tier 2, and it's very important that you get those buildings up. So you have to do something, whether you're creeping near your base so you can be near it to defend, or you know, in the best case scenario, you're attacking the Orc. You need to ensure that those tier 2 buildings get up. So now, here we have a big tier 2 push from Orc player. Excuse me while I take a drink of water. Which is something you're going to see a lot of. Even if your tier 2 buildings get up, you are very vulnerable right